Now, I want to play you a bit more of the Governor talking about house prices. We know cash rates have been lifted 12 times since May last year to deal with that rising inflation challenge. Here's the Governor just explaining his reasoning for why house prices are so high.
The high housing prices are the outcomes of the choices that we've all made together as a society. Choices about where we live, how we design our cities, and how we design and regulate urban land, how we invest in and design transport systems, and how we tax land and how we tax housing investment. In each of these areas, our society and our politicians have made choices that lead to high urban land and high urban housing costs.
Well, some big reasons listed there by the Governor, but to reform the whole way we think about housing, that's kind of, I think, what he's saying. It might be a bit difficult to achieve that in Australia.
Oh, it's definitely difficult to achieve, and that's why in some ways we haven't achieved it yet. But I do agree that the primary reason why house prices are high and affordability is a challenge is because the supply side is not free enough. We haven't got enough availability of housing in the right locations. More urban infill, more greenfield release, reduction of the regulatory burden. These are the things we need to look at to boost housing supply, and it's housing supply you need to boost if you want to improve the affordability challenge and if you want to prevent house prices from remaining as high relative to incomes. It's not about interest rates or demand. They drive the cycle, but they can't drive the fundamentals on the supply side of the economy, and they can't drive the fundamentals that drive housing prices.
Now, this is the last part of the speech. The Governor has been criticised a bit over the past couple of years and had his comments misinterpreted. This is what Governor Lowe had to say about that.
In addition to these points, there are many other points that have been attributed to me, including a promise that interest rates would not go up until 2024. Everybody needs to get a flatmate. Everybody needs to work more hours to make ends meet. And young adults should stay at home because of the rental crisis. Yet I did not make any of those points. And I might also add that I did not choose Justin Timberlake's Can't Stop the Feeling to accompany me as I walked to a speaking podium earlier in the year. My experience here highlights the difficulties of communicating in the social media and digital age. Despite these difficulties, I have always felt the responsibility to explain complex ideas and the trade-offs and the uncertainties that we face. And I know that some of my explanations have missed the mark. But the media has a responsibility here too. In my view, is that we'll get better outcomes if the public square is filled with facts and with nuanced and informed debate, rather than vitriol, personal attacks and clickbait. As a society, we've got work to do here.
Now, Paul, this was the part of the speech that stood out to me the most. I guess it was his chance to kind of correct the record a little bit and go on a little bit on the defensive, but it also seemed like he did acknowledge communication has been something that the RBA maybe got wrong a little bit over the last few years.
Yeah, they've got to work on communication, absolutely. It's a high priority. It's a difficult task, though. It really is difficult to communicate complex things that often involve quite a lot of nuance in a way that can hit which parts of your audience that require it. So, the RBA writes a lot of things. They give a lot of speeches. They write their minutes. They write their statement of monetary policy, and then, of course, the governor and the governors, the assistant governors, and so on, give speeches. Communicating is quite difficult, and the RBA governor has said, as he has, that he has strived to do his best to be as clear as possible. But along the way, some of the nuance can often get lost.
Well, this week they kept the cash rate on hold, 4.1%. The new Governor, Michelle Bullock, will be leading the next monetary policy meeting. But is the HSBC, are you expecting rates to stay level at 4.1, or is there potential for rates to go higher again?
We think that they may still have to lift interest rates a little bit more. And the reason we get to that conclusion is that, productivity is very weak, as we talked about a little earlier. Inflation is coming down, but it's still quite elevated. It's quite high. And although the economy is slowing down, the question is it slowing enough to get inflation to come right back down to their 2 to 3% target band over a reasonable time frame? And you also look out into the world and see that, the US economy is doing pretty well at the moment. The US Federal Reserve, they've got interest rates that they may have to hold steady or lift again. We think the Europeans will lift rates a bit further as well, and the British too. So the global environment is one which may yet see the RBA have to lift interest rates just that little bit more. But the main message is, I think, the vast majority of the tightening is done. They've done 400 basis points. They're having an effect. It's slowing the economy as they want it, as they need it to need to happen. The question is, are they doing just that little bit more? I don't think we should talk about rate cuts anytime soon, though.
Paul, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.